Hey guys, it's Justine here from I Should Read That, and today I am bringing you the Fave Festive Family Films book tag. I have tried to say that about 4 times and I've not gotten it right until now. So this is a tag created by Kayla from Crack Into a Good Book, and she tagged me in it, and I was really excited for this. Not only because it's Christmas content and it's an excuse to wear my Christmas jumper and my Santa hat, but I also love Christmas films, and we've recently gotten into the genre of like bad Netflix Christmas films, and each Christmas just keeps getting better and better. So I was really excited to do this one. I have to admit I haven't necessarily seen every single one of these films, but there are a few on here that make our Christmas film rota every single year. So let's go ahead and get started, and I will put all the prompts down below so you can follow along or do this tag yourself as well. So the very first prompt is for the film Elf, which I have seen and we recently introduced my parents to a couple of days ago. So this is the best way to spread Christmas cheer is singing loud for all to hear. So what is a book that makes you smile? And I think the classic answer for me would be a Becky Chambers book, but to mix things up a little bit, I am going to say The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. This is a book that I read this year and I really loved. It's super heartwarming and it's super sort of uplifting, and I don't get to read books like that very often because a lot of the stuff that I read tends to be pretty grim and pretty depressing. So this book follows a man who is basically like a social worker for magical children. He works for the government and he basically checks into all of these orphanages and schools for magical children to make sure that they are being well cared for. So one day he is basically sent on this super classified assignment to this orphanage that is very far away on an island in the ocean to check on the children in this particular place because they are children who have been deemed particularly dangerous. So he has to look in and see how the children are doing, how the place is being run, and this ends up changing his world. This is such a wonderful book. It's such a lovely book. It is heartwarming. It's sort of perfect for all ages. It's not an adult book necessarily. It's not a YA book. It's just sort of sits happily in the middle, and it's one that is just so good and will put a smile on your face. The next prompt is for a film I haven't actually seen in a really long time. This is reminding me to put it on our list of Christmas films to watch this year. This is The Muppet Christmas Carol. A blue furry Charles Dickens who hangs out with a rat? Charles Dickens was a 19th century novelist. So this is what is one of your favorite adaptations or retellings of a story. It could be a book to movie adaptation, a fairy tale retelling, etc. So I'm trying to think just off the top of my head, what have I enjoyed recently that's a retelling? Oh, you know what's a great one that I read this year is Bookish and the Beast by Ashley Poston. This is the 3rd book in the Once Upon a Con series, the only series of YA contemporary novels that I actually read, and this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. This is another really charming and lovely book. If you are a sort of person who has ever participated in fandoms, has ever been to conventions, has ever kind of considered yourself a bit of a nerd, these books are really lovely. So in this particular one, we follow a girl named Rosie, and she's sort of at a strange point in her life. Her mother has passed away, and she feels like she's really just known as the girl with the dead mother, and she feels like she's really struggling to kind of get her life back. So Vance, who is a movie star, who is the villain from the previous book, he has kind of a cameo moment, ends up moving to her town, renting a house to kind of get out of the spotlight because he's been getting a lot of bad press for his bad behavior in the tabloids. The two of them end up literally colliding, ruining a first edition of a Starfield book, which is the sort of fandom that the series is based around, and they end up having to work together to pay off the debt for ruining this book. And it's just a charming book. It's really lovely. I don't always love fairy tale retellings because I think sometimes they can get a little bit samey, because we always get like, I know it's ironic for me to mention it in this one, but like Beauty and the Beast retellings or Sleeping Beauty retellings. So I usually like things that are a little bit more out there, but this is a really fun Beauty and the Beast retelling. I really enjoyed this one this year. So next is one that if we're talking about the live action version, I haven't seen, but I do really love the animated version. I keep trying to get my family to watch it at Christmas, but we've not really gone for it yet. This is The Grinch. So the prompt is, your 3-decker sauerkraut and toadstool sandwich with arsenic sauce. Who is one of your favorite book villains? I love villains. I love, love, love a good villain. For some reason, I just find them so compelling and so much fun, and they often end up being my favorite characters. So I've got quite a wide range of options for this one, but I'm going to go with the most recent book that I finished, which is Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse, specifically because I guess you could call him the villain in this story, is also kind of a protagonist. To people who are not on his side, he is very much a villain, but to people who know him, he is not, which is something that I just absolutely love. We love some gray areas. This is Serapio, and he is sort of a vessel for the Crow God reborn, who is going to take vengeance on the ruling clans in this particular world and sort of bring back the Crow clan's sort of majesty. He is literally ritualistically scarred. There's some icky eye stuff that happens at the beginning of this book, just a heads up, and at the end of this book, and he's sort of like, he's almost nightmarish when you initially see him. However, as we see throughout the book, there's a little bit more to him, and that's always my favorite thing when it comes to villains. And I don't know if I would necessarily just straight up black and white consider him a villain, but I think he definitely qualifies as someone who's got some villainous intentions. Next up is one that I haven't seen because I didn't realize it existed, but I absolutely love SpongeBob, so I'm gonna need to watch this. This is the Spongebob Christmas Special. This Christmas feels like the very first Christmas to me. What was one of the first books you read in one of your favorite genres? So the one that I always think back to is The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien, of course, and I think of this one because my parents read this to me and my sister when we were little, which is so cute, especially knowing that my dad is not a big fantasy fan, so the fact that he read a good portion of this book to us, it just shows that he's an awesome dad. So this was kind of my initial exposure to fantasy many years ago, and it is the one that has really stuck in my head. Also, just kind of a fun fact, I really consider The Hobbit to be a Christmas book because for a long time I actually reread The Hobbit every year at Christmas. It's a tradition that I'd really like to bring back. I was going to this year, but I don't have a copy of it at my parents' house, which is a little sad. Next up is my favorite Christmas movie, A Christmas Story, a major award. Name a book that you love that has won an award. So the Hugos, Lotus, Pulitzer, anything like that. So I'm gonna actually need to look up, I'm gonna take a look at this year's Hugo winners and see what I have read. Okay, so you know what won the Hugo this year for Best Novella is This Is How You Lose the Time War by Amal El-Mohtar and Max Gladstone. I loved this novella. It is weird. I had no idea what the hell was going on for most of it, but it is fabulous and wonderful and so well written, and I just loved it so much. So basically this book is about two characters, Red and Blue, who are on opposite sides of a time war. So they are initially enemies and they kind of leave each other taunting letters, and this sort of relationship begins to grow into sort of a love affair, and it's just fabulous. I really love this book. It is not an easy read necessarily. It is not a simple read that you can just kind of tear through in a day, but it is a really fantastic novella if you are interested in checking that out. Okay, next up is another Christmas film that I have not seen. This is National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, Jelly of the Month Club. What is a book you were excited to read that turned out to be a disappointment? I am going to mention one of the books that I read in the month of November. This is The Year of the Witching by Alexis Henderson. I really wanted to love this, especially because it's just getting rave reviews from everyone everywhere, and I didn't get it. I felt like for me, I talk about this more in that video, which is either forthcoming or is up right now. I don't know when I'm gonna start posting again, but It was just a big mess to me. I felt like character motivations didn't make sense, parts of the world didn't make sense, the ending sucked. I really hated the ending because it didn't feel like it made sense with the story. It was just a huge mess, which is such a shame because I feel like I really want to love witchy books and I've had no luck with witchy books this year, this being one of them. So the next prompt is Bad Santa. Should I fix you some sandwiches? Name a character who's optimistic or wants to help others. The very first character that pops into my head is, of course, Joran Twinner from The Bone Ships by R.J. Barker. I love Joran. He's just like, these books really kind of focus on his character and his character arc, and although he starts the book literally like drunk under a tree, sort of wasting his life away, he becomes this incredibly strong, wonderful character who becomes a very sort of optimistic in his own way kind of person, and it's just wonderful and fabulous, and those books are amazing if you haven't read them yet. So good. I love all of the characters in those, and I love the fact that these books do feel inherently optimistic as well, despite the fact that they are quite gritty. Next up is a movie I haven't seen since theaters. I remember very specifically going to see this with my mom and my sister. The Santa Claus. Seeing isn't believing, believing is seeing. What is something from a book that you wish was real? I mean, the first thing that pops into my head is the magic from Harry Potter because that's what I kind of grew up with, but for the sake of not bringing up Harry Potter too much on this channel because J.K. Rowling sucks, I think that I'm gonna say Mephi from The Bone Shard Daughter. He's a thing that I wish was real. He's so cute and I love him. I just want an animal companion that talks to be my best friend and follow me around. I mean, I kind of have that with these two, especially that one, but they don't talk back, which is really upsetting. I feel like Mephi would be an amazing, like, best friend to go on, like, country rambles with, and he just love everything about it. And he just loves life, and he's just wonderful. He's so cute. If you haven't read The Bone Shard Daughter yet, you'll have no idea what I'm talking about. If you have, you probably agree and wish that Mephi was real too. Next up is The Nightmare Before Christmas. We got some in-jokes about this one. I won't share them, but for those of you who know, you're laughing right now. So the prompt is, there's frost on every window, oh I can't believe my eyes, and in my bones I feel the warmth that's coming from inside. What's a book that's perfect to read in winter? I have a whole winter recommendations TBR, so I'm just gonna pluck one off of that. The obvious answer to this is The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. I mean, it's such a wonderfully atmospheric book. It takes place in medieval Russia, there's lots of snow, it takes place in winter. Winter sort of personified is a character in this book, and it's just fabulous. That whole Winter Night trilogy is so incredibly good. I know it's a booktube favorite, but if you haven't read it yet, you should absolutely consider picking it up. So the next prompt is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, one I haven't seen since I was like 4. Didn't I ever tell you about Bumbles? Bumbles bounce. What's your favorite creature from a book? Well, I've already said Mephi for one, so I can't say him again. So I'm gonna go ahead and say Born from Born by Jeff Vandermeer. He's so cute. I know that he's like basically a science experiment gone wrong, but he's adorable and I love him. I love him so much. I am such a sucker for like any creature, be it alien, animal, some combination of the two, that's like learning and growing. Is just like the best thing ever. So right now I'm obsessed with Baby Yoda for that same reason, not only because he's adorable, but also he's like learning and like doing cute stuff. So Born is definitely up there for me. He's just like, he starts from like, basically the main character Rachel thinks he's a plant, and he begins to kind of grow and evolve and learn all these different things that he can do, and he's totally adorable while he does it, and I love Born so much. Okay, so we have some bonus questions. That is the end of the regular questions for the tag. Now we have some bonus questions. So the very first one is, what is your favorite Christmas/holiday movie? I mean, It's a Wonderful Life is gonna be up there. We watch it every year now. We didn't for a long time because I thought it would be really lame and also like really depressing. And it is depressing, but ultimately at the end, it's such a wonderfully uplifting movie. I know that not everyone is as into old films as I am, but it's absolutely worth a try. It does have some cheese in it, but like, it's Christmas, we can have a little bit of cheese. I also love A Christmas Story, which was mentioned in this video. This is one that doesn't translate overseas and outside of America as far as I can tell, because none of my British friends and Scottish husband had ever heard of this movie, and it is like the ultimate Christmas movie to me, so that makes me really sad. Apparently you don't have channels running that movie back to back again and again and again for 72 hours over here. Who would have thought? I am also loving all of the cheesy Netflix Christmas films that are coming out. So I'm a huge fan of The Princess Switch 1 and 2 because we've watched both. Christmas Prince, less good. There's a lot of really, really shitty ones, but I think last year we watched, I think it was called A Christmas Advent Calendar, which was really sweet. I really liked that one. So Scottish husband is currently picking some cheesy ones for us to watch this year, and I'm really, really excited about those. Oh, and then Gremlins! I had never seen Gremlins until a couple of years ago when Scottish husband naturally introduced me to it, and we made my mum watch it last year, and she was laughing the entire time. We had such an amazing time. So we're gonna watch Gremlins this year, try to get my dad to watch it, who's a little bit more serious, but we think that we can get him. And then we're gonna watch Gremlins 2, which, like, I'm so pumped for. And the last of the bonus questions is, do you have a favorite book to read around Christmas or the holidays, or just, you know, one to recommend? As I mentioned before, The Hobbit is definitely a Christmas book to me. I still have this really, really gorgeous edition that my sister got me for Christmas one year, which is what kind of started this tradition. It's I think I've shown it off on this channel before, but it's like a hardback leather bound edition, and it has these gorgeous like green toned drawings in them, and it's like stamped leather on the cover, and it has a slipcase. It's just really, really, really beautiful. That edition has been with me to multiple states and multiple countries. It's something that I really, really treasure. So The Hobbit is definitely a really solid Christmas book for me. There's not a lot in fantasy, like in romance, for example. You get tons of Christmas books. You get like Christmas murder mysteries, but you don't really get that in sci-fi and fantasy. So I know that Terry Pratchett has a Christmas book, which I've never read before. The Woman in Black by Susan Hill takes place at Christmas time. But other than that, I can't really think of any others. It's really The Hobbit for me. So that is it for this tag. If you feel like getting into the festive mood, consider yourself tagged. I don't know who's done this. I don't know who hasn't done this. So I'm just gonna say, if you're watching this and you want to do it, go ahead and consider yourself tagged. I would love to see your videos if you end up doing this, so hit me up and send me a link if you end up doing this. I would love to hear what your festive traditions are, whether it's Christmas or Hanukkah or any other festivity during the holiday season. Definitely let me know what you and your family do during this period and what your traditions are. I post bookish content to this channel fairly frequently, so go ahead and hit subscribe, check back soon, and I will see you next time.